Good evening. This is the New Dawn FM News in English read to you by Dolores Talasi. First, the headlines. ABG House extends the Bougainville state of emergency for 2 months. Member wants writ to be issued. Health Minister says Bougainville's best defense is to heighten the preventive measures. Toke gives 20,000 kina check to South Bougainville's COVID-19 task force, and Minister for Lands and Physical Planning supports extension of the state of emergency in Bougainville. Now the news in detail. The autonomous Bougainville's House of Representatives today extended the Bougainville state of emergency for another 2 months by unanimous vote this morning, and also appointed Parliamentary Select Committee to work with the State of Emergency Controller and the Ministerial Task Force, which has been working since the first state of emergency was declared by the President and the Bougainville Executive Council on March 23, 2020. Parliament had to vote on the motion after all members were given the chance to make comments on the extension of the state of emergency. Debate on the motion commenced straight after the ABG President, Grand Chief Dr. John Mommies, presented a statement containing the request for extending the state of emergency following the rising of numbers of coronavirus infections around the world. PNG had to quickly shut their doors after a patient was confirmed as carrier of the coronavirus. This was the only one confirmed until another one was identified in Rabaul on Sunday. The State of Emergency Committee will now meet with the controller and work on the new orders. Member for Taunita Timpu's Honorable David Brown has appealed to the House of Representatives to establish a plan so that writs can be issued to keep the elections running despite the state of emergency. Honorable Brown said, according to the Constitution, by June 25, 2020, ABG should have a government and the intending candidates for the election should be running their campaigns. Mr. Brown said the only reason why the issue of writs had been deferred is because of the state of emergency restrictions of public gathering, which could affect the campaigns. He said by law the current representatives were already being disqualified as members of the House of Representatives, but through the state of emergency their duties were being extended. He said by law the current representatives were already being disqualified as member of the House of Representatives, but through the state of emergency, their duties were being extended. Honorable Brown said that he understands that Bougainville is in a critical condition in containing the pandemic, but on the other hand, he strongly believes that Bougainvilleans has an important constitution to defend. He appealed to the Electoral Commissioner, the State of Emergency Controller, and Parliament Speaker to strategize and come up with a plan of how Bougainville can manage the two important situations at the same time. He said Bougainville needs a legitimate government to handle this crucial situation, and everyone must cooperate according to the law. ABG Minister for Health and Member for Bolave, Dennis Lokanai, declared that Bougainville's best defense to protect itself from COVID-19 is to heighten health measures since Papua New Guinea's hospitals are significantly weak. In his statement during the parliament session yesterday, he said the hospitals in most affected countries are overwhelmed as they face a looming shortage of intensive care and protective equipments, and developed countries are facing immense pressure to contain the spread of the virus. Minister Lokanai said PNG's health system is significantly weak and many hospitals in the country, including Buka and Arawa hospitals, do not have the essentials equipment to effectively respond to the pandemic. He said based on the crude data and experience currently shown in other countries, the health workforce in PNG and Bougainville is insufficient to manage the number of people who might be sick with COVID-19. Honorable Lokanai said the pandemic can potentially overwhelm the health system and safety of healthcare workers will be compromised and has severe impacts to other sectors of the government and the public. He said Bougainville has developed a response plan and established a ministerial task force obligated to ensure that all Bougainvillians are protected against the COVID-19 virus. Mr. Lokanai said that the task force is doing all it can to contain the situation through surveillance to identify, quarantine, and isolate potential cases. He said the task force is also developing and delivering awareness programs, communicating critical risk and providing relevant and factual information to all communities to counter rumors and misinformation. You are listening to the New Dawn FM News. Member for Bawbake constituency, Honorable Jacob Toke, has presented a 20,000 kina check to the South Bougainville COVID-19 Emergency Coordination Task Force. The 20,000 kina checks are part of the members' ongoing support to South Bougainville COVID-19 Emergency Coordination Task Force with its emergency response work within the South Bougainville region. Mr. Toke said the first check payment of 10,000 kina is a general funding support to the task force to assist in its programs and efforts in dealing with the coronavirus. The second check payment of 10,000 kina is specifically to support and assist the task force in setting up the planned isolation center proposed to be stationed at Turiboru Sub-Health Center in Buin. Mr. Toke said he is honored to support the work of the task force and hopes that as a region and a nation, this pandemic can be contained. Meanwhile, Mr. Toke said he is honored to support the work of the task force and hope that as a region and a nation, this pandemic can be contained. Meanwhile, the Bawbake constituency COVID-19 awareness team consists of 6 members, which includes 3 health personnel, a medical doctor, a nursing officer, a village health volunteer, a police personnel, and 2 civil society reps. Minister for Lands and Fiscal Planning and member for Agogoya constituency, Honorable Robert Amal Sawa, supported the advice from the health authority to further extend the state of emergency in Bougainville for the next 2 months. The Honorable Minister told the House of Representatives that the extension of the SOE will allow the people of Bougainville to fully comply with the state of emergency orders. Mr. Sawa said COVID-19 is increasing in an alarming rate across the globe and urged that the people of Bougainville take ownership to prevent this disease from entering the country and the region. He said people should comply with the state of emergency orders and maintain social distancing, refrain from attending public gatherings and other activities that encourage the spread of this virus. He stated that these activities will only create the opportunity for the COVID-19 to spread from one person to another. The minister appeals to the people to take heed of the awareness of COVID-19 being carried out in the communities. This has been the New Dawn FM News in English. You can also see our news on www.bougainvillenews.com, www.bougainville.typed.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can also listen to us on New Dawn FM YouTube page. On behalf of the news team, I'm Dolores Talasi. You have a pleasant evening.